Hello everyone, welcome to the 12 days of Christmas. Christmas has always been my absolute favorite time of year. Although it doesn't really get cold here that often, I still enjoy it because it's a time for family to get together. Let's get into what you'll need to follow along. Of course, you're going to need a pencil, eraser, watercolor paper, watercolor paint, a brush. For watercolor paper, I'm using 100% cotton cold pressed paper, and I am cutting them to postcard size. For paints, I'm using Holbein artist grade watercolor paints. Throughout each video, I will be labeling what paint I'm using at that time. For a paintbrush, I'm just using a small round. This is a number 4. Of course, you also need 2 cups of water, one for clean and one for dirty. Optional is paper tape and a clipboard. Additionally, I will be putting all the outlines on Patreon for download. So if you want to support me, you can go over to my Patreon and sign up as a member. Then you'll get all the outlines at the same time as the video comes out. All right, thank you so much. Let's get into painting. Hello everyone, welcome to day 8 of the 12 days of Christmas. Today we're going to be painting this hot chocolate with a candy cane inside. We're using pretty much all of the colors today. Look at the material list in the beginning of this video before getting started. Alright, the first color we are going to use is red. And when we look at the reference photo, it's kind of warm. It's not that cool like our regular red. So we're going to mix in some yellow ochre. Start by activating the paint and then just drop in some yellow ochre. As you can see, it warms it up a bit and makes it a bit like a bright, warm red. I'm going to just mix clear water. Make sure I paint everything. From here we see some highlights, and for that I'm going to just clear water, kind of take that out. And then I'll go in with our paint, and right down the middle here, like a darker streak. So while it's still wet, I'll just drop in, also right here, just drop in a bit of darker. Underneath where the handle is, there will be a shadow, just about here. Alright, let's not do anything else for now. The next part is the chocolate inside the mug. So for this we're going to use burnt umber. And we can see that there's some sprinkles of chocolate over the hot chocolate. It's gonna be a little bit hard to get those small details, but we can try to do that maybe in the second layer. Do some splats. Splat some paint in it or something. But for now, let's do a clear flat wash. And the same, take a little bit darker. Just drop it in here and there. For now, that should give it the effect that there's some sprinkles on it. Okay, so now that that's done, let's paint one stripe of the candy cane. I think we're gonna just do 3 colors. We're gonna do blue, green, and red. So let's start with blue. And this time we're using our light blue, compose blue. Alright, and then we have some of the inside of the mug, which is white, and we have the rim of the mug, which is black. So let's take our ivory black, water it down a lot. Just going to paint a light wash over everything for now. yes, it's still wet, so they will bleed. So this rim here is going to be a dark black, so I think I'll just leave that there for now. I think that is all for the first layer. We are going to wait for this to dry. Normally I would try to paint some of those other stripes, but because this is quite a dark saturated wash, it's very wet. You can see here it's already bleeding in. So let me just pick that out. Probably gonna have to go over again. Yeah, let's wait for this to dry. All right, so we're moving on to the second layer. I do think that dropping in the brown did a really good job because it does start to make it look like there's some texture in there, which is what we're going for. Now let's start with painting the red on our candy cane. So now let's go in and do a second layer of red. And we want to look at where those highlights are. So we want to try to make sure we have those highlights in. So I'm mixing yellow ochre with our red. I'm gonna start down here. A bit too warm. Put in a bit more red there. I'm gonna paint down here and then a little swipe here. There. Here. Paint that shadow underneath the rim of the cup. So now with clear water, and you need to move fast, I'm going to blend that into the layer underneath. So we're doing a graded wash where that's gonna blend. But you have to move fast so that edge doesn't dry. Okay, while it's still wet, I'm going to just drop in a little bit darker. Let it kind of blend in with each other. Let's drop a little bit here because there are some interesting reflections on that coffee mug. All right, let's take a look at the handle. So we have to be careful because there's a really bright highlight there. I want to keep that in. This time I didn't draw it out. So like that. And down here, there's another really bright highlight. I want to keep in, but I did not draw that out. So I'll probably add that in the outline, which by the way, you can access if you join my Patreon and support me as Studio Access. You'll get all the outlines there. So I'll make sure I add that to the outline. Okay, I think that's all for now for the mug. It's still wet, so I don't really want to paint the black, but we can go in and paint our brown. And we can see that the candy cane is kind of making a shadow inside. So let's paint that there. Have kind of a shadow here and here. Something like that. And then we want to do some splattering, right? So let's grab a bit of paint on our brush, but we don't want it to splatter outside, right? So what you can do is you can take a tissue or whatever. In this case, I'm just using an extra piece of paper and then just flick so that it splats. I probably want to smooth out this splat a bit here. We have some splats into the cup, but you know what? I think it looks great, so we're gonna leave that. There we go. Now it just kind of looks like another layer of texture. I think the red is pretty much dry. All right, let's go in and paint the permanent green streak. Okay, we need to wait for things to dry again. Once they dry off, we can go in and paint the rim, some of the details on the cup to make sure that you can see the difference between the handle and the mug part. And then the candy cane is looking a little bit flat, so we need to give it some shadows and highlights to give it some depth. Okay, it's completely dried to the touch. I've also taken some time to erase our pencil lines. Now let's go in and finally do that dark rim. Okay, we're probably gonna go in and make some areas of the mug darker. But now, since we've erased our pencil lines, it's kind of hard to tell where the handle is and where the mug is. So what we're going to do is take our red, mix it with burnt umber. So this time we want to darken it and we want to make it a little bit darker than the yellow ochre red. That way we can really see the difference. And then we're just gonna go in and give it some contact shadows. You know, right here where the mug has that rim that's going a little bit out. And then, you know, here where it's touching, give it a shadow. There. Really tell the difference between what is the mug, what is the handle. Turn off your brush, blend that out a bit. Down here. A little bit more down here. Your line that says mug, handle. There we go, something like that. Okay, we're missing the shadow on the table, so I'm going to take burnt umber, shadow down there, a little bit in there. Then let's take burnt umber again and try to make the shadow inside that chocolate a little bit more obvious. Super light ivory black. Paint that shadow for candy cane as it's leaning against the cup. Blend it out with some clear water. So now we want to give the candy cane a little bit of depth, and we can do that by painting a slightly darker wash over one area. All right, let's see if we can do some lifting. So I've cleaned off my brush. Just right here in the center, I see quite a bright highlight. You can see, yes, is able to lift a little bit. We need to add a darker layer of black. So I'm getting it pretty much as it comes out of the tube, as saturated as possible. Then I'm just going to paint one more layer over some areas that are clearly darker. Okay, there we go. I think our mug is done. This one is very loose, and I like that it has a slightly different quality to it. Thank you for joining me for day 8. I'll see you tomorrow.